In a world of magic, elves, dwarves, angels, demons, and many other races possess some level of magic and the ability to use magic tools, except humanity, which possess no magical affinity at all. This is why humans were forced to improvise. It was morning. A skeleton glow came between the curtains, and beneath the door creeped a bright and orange light. The cabin itself was drab and drafty. 4 bunk beds, each occupied, a dirt floor, hard packed and trodden, 2 windows, over which white curtains drew, a door, in its frame askew. From one bed emerged rumbling snores, from another the soft breaths of sleepers. From without was heard the twittering early birds, the flowing wind, the gurgling stream. Elsewise was all silent, perhaps peaceful, the lull afore a storm. But Stanton could not sleep, despite the quiet that, by most, might have constituted the epitome of a perfect morning on which to lounge and be lazy. He could not be lazy, though. Not today. Not any day. For slaves cannot lounge, least of all the cleaners who had no overseers, but worked on notice daily. But not today, most of all. He sighed and stood and paced, across the room, then back again. There he walked, back and forth, until that aforementioned snorer was roused from slumber, stood, stretched, and walked from bottom bunk with bleary eyes. "What you up so early for?" "Nothing, Olson. Go back to bed. It's Sunday. The forges are closed Sunday. You've got the day as free as can be." They smiled. It was a joke among slaves, who were not free, but desperately wished so. Wishing never moved anyone. Luck happened only yearly, if at all. "You reap what you sow," Stanton told himself. "You sowed, and today you reap." "Isn't today—" "Not your problem. You did your part. It's mine now, isn't it?" It was indeed the risky plan, as all plans are that involve such matters as slaves and masters. There was much and more that might turn awry. What if he could not sneak the package? What if the magic was too strong? What if the slaves had become complacent? He shook his head and fingered the package, a leather satchel beneath which was felt the outlines of hard metal. A bell tolled in the off distance, a deep-throated thing whose sound broke off Stanton's rumination and lethal prophecy. Much could go wrong, but there was much that was wrong, much worth dying for, sacrificing for. But that bell meant breakfast, and breakfast meant food. The bell had roused 2 others as yet unawake. A moment later they set forth, rather likened to sleepwalkers. Only Stanton was fully awake, fully weary. Today was the day. No backing down. The door opened to a vast expanse of land, rolling hills, flowing streams. This heard only minutes before, floating clouds. The first of these was viewed in the far-off horizon, green and fertile and promising. Behind these the faint outline of snow-capped mountains. The middle of these was crisscrossed, here or there the off-wooden boat, awaiting passenger, carefully positioned, that one might set to the middle stream for fishing, or otherwise ferry to the opposite bank. The last of these were sparsely placed. Much of sky was a clear, bright blue. They made their way down in silence, towards mess hall, which was, aside from silverware in the nearby kitchen, devoid of murmur and talk. All were serious this day. Most knew the stakes. Those who did not were cowed to incomprehensive quiet. But the overseers liked that, liked it very much, suspected nothing. Or did they? Were they faking? Did they know? Was it all for naught? "Oi!" The game is up, thought Stanton, turning. His hand reached into satchel, and within found the hard metal, which he tightly grasped. "Bastard! Turn when you're spoken to!" His will was tested then and there, his mental fortitude strong as ever, but wavering to break the secret, break the plan, and slay behind him that hated voice. For that voice was Rorik, he knew, the dwarf who was likened to the devil. All dwarves are masters, this drilled into slaves, but most dwarves were gruff yet kindly, in their own peculiar sort of way. But Rorik was worst of all, devising new methods of torture, new magics of control, done in perverse pleasure that one must only associate with the ruler of hell. All have a breaking point, thought Stanton. Rorik didn't know that yet. You, slave! Rorik was behind. He was sickly and small, short and skinny, but in the bags of his eyes danced a heady cruelty. On his fingers were the sparks of magic. You're to attend the master. He's got important guests over from Elfencrest. You're to be there in 10 minutes to serve the food, and I don't want any misbehaving, all right? Yes. Good. Now go if you don't want double whippings tonight. In this statement did Stanton find the anchor that steeled his will among these uncertain thoughts. The master was having guests from Elfencrest? Important guests? The more the merrier, but he could only kill 12. More than that, he did not know. I'll save you for last, Stanton said. Save me for last, huh? Rorik chuckled. Think you're safe, just because you're master's favorite slave? 3 whippings, then, for 3 days. No lunch for you for the rest of the week. Yes, master. You'll never be safe. Master doesn't care. No one cares for magicless scum as yourselves. The whole human race is scum. You hear me? You all are worth nothing. Can't perform a single spell. But he was off, a spring in his step, as though within Rorik's sharp words was held some inebriating potion. The master had guests? Yes, the master did, and it would turn out better than planned. As he walked, followed the dirt-packed path, there rose up around him homes of stone, towers of stone, in the distance a palace of stone, all rugged and worn and sturdy. Within each manse, he knew, was contained a private household slave, a private baking slave, cleaning slave, blacksmith slave, human all. But Stanton held no eyes for them. His eyes were set upon the distant crenels, beneath which was a gate through which he later entered. He made headway along a flight of stairs, then another, and another, until he happened across an archway, whose entrance was barred by thick, iron doors. He shoved them open, entered unmolested, package secured. Within was discovered a slab-like stone table, around which seated 3 dwarves and 7 elves. Master sat on the very end, genially smiling. Ah, Stanton, do have a seat, will you? We were just about to have breakfast. Would you like some? Stanton froze. What was this? Poison? No, master, he said aloud. I'm a slave, master. It wouldn't be appropriate. Are you sure? I've had the kitchen, not the slave kitchen, mind, the dwarven kitchen cook a mushroom course. Quite delicious, but if you insist... What the hell is going on? Stanton had never experienced such treatment before. Again, the doubts rose in his mind. The treacherous slaves, the reptilian slaves, they snitched. Indeed, one must have, for why else would master act as such? Your master's favorite slave, he remembered Rorik had said. But a great endeavor lured him on, kept him steady. You've come too far to let your doubts get you down. Stay on course. Favorite slave or no, you're not yet free. He fingered the package, and again thrust his hand to grasp that which lay concealed within. One of the elves spoke up. If you're not going to sit, slave, fetch the first course for us. Yes, do get on with it, said a dwarf. I'm starving. No. I'm sorry. What? The dwarf leaned forwards with the appearance of one having misheard. Then he jerked back into his chair, a bleeding hole upon his forehead, his expression glassed. Stanton pulled from within the satchel that which had been concealed, a metal object, L-shaped, forged in secret by those blacksmith slaves. 2 clips, 12 bullets, 11 targets. Fired 5, reload, fire again, until only 2 bullets and Master remained. Stanton! Master leaned back into the chair behind, magic dancing on outstretched fingers. Master had never been good at magic, Stanton knew. Still, Bad magic was better than no magic, right? That's why all humans were slaves. Now an elated well filled him, as though there had been drought, but presently it rained. It is time, he thought. Time to do that which he had so purposely come to do. Judge, jury, and executioner. Months of covert planning, in the culmination of spectacular, and by the enemy thoroughly unforeseen, murder. Do it now, before guards come, and you can't get out. Stanton, Master said again, pleading. You don't have to do this. But I do, said Stanton. He hesitated. He knew wherefore this hesitance came, from that act of kindness Master had earlier shown. Still a slave, though. He raised the gun. Sayonara. This story was written by Legit Lone Wolf. Read by a Bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening.